Hi, 4E. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. Um, and I'm impressed, Lucas, that you are in Washington, D.C., and you're seeing all the cherry blossoms that Hiroshi and Sky are at now in the story. But it's good that you're keeping a distance because you're not supposed to get too close to people. But I just saw on the news all the cherry blossoms in DC, and they're so beautiful. So it's perfect timing for our story. Okay, let's see. So where we left off in the story is, let's see, they're preparing for the kite battle, and the kite had been repaired after the Cherry Blossom Festival, so they're very excited and kind of nervous about what's going to happen. All right, so chapter 34 from Hiroshi's perspective. Over the next few days, Hiroshi felt as if he were moving underwater. Relatives traveled from Japan, some of whom he'd never met before. They all spoke in low voices, bowing deeply to Father. Aunt Kathy had invited Hiroshi to join her and Sky on a walk. But he told her he had to help Mother. That wasn't really true, but he wanted to be alone. Not easy when he was constantly surrounded by people. "Why don't you go ride your bike, Hiroshi?" Mother had said when she found him sitting on the stairs. "It's a beautiful day outside. Go get some fresh air." Hiroshi didn't feel like riding his bike, or going outside, or staying inside. He walked past Father and heard him talking with third uncle in the hallway about the white kimono. Hiroshi wandered outside and sank onto the first step. The white kimono. This would be the one they placed in the casket, along with sandals, leggings, and a headband with a triangle in the center. Paper money would also be laid in the casket. Grandfather might need the money to get to the next world. His favorite things from this life could also be added to the casket for his next life. Everything would be cremated together before Grandfather began his journey. Favorite things. Hiroshi stood up. He knew what he had to do. There wasn't much time with the wake scheduled for tomorrow. Hiroshi hurried back inside the house and weaved his way through the crowd of relatives and down the basement steps. Overhead, muffled voices mingled with creaking floorboards as people padded from room to room in their slippers. Hiroshi breathed in the peace of Grandfather's workshop. He walked straight over to the box of bamboo and chose a few of the smallest pieces from the stack. Still too big. One by one, he trimmed them down to size, from the length of his hand, others no longer than his little finger. With a thick-bladed knife, he sliced the bamboo along its grain until each piece was thin enough. The light outside began to fade, but he kept working. He didn't hear Mother come down the stairs and jumped when she set a plate of rice cakes on the work table beside him. "You must be hungry, Hiroshi. You've been down here for almost 2 hours. Are you all right?" "Hi. I'm just making something for Grandfather. For the wake tomorrow." "Don't stay up too late. Tomorrow will be a long day for all of us." Hiroshi listened to her footsteps as she climbed back up the stairs. Rubbing his stiff neck, he stood to stretch. The creaking floorboards and low voices had faded. He popped a rice cake into his mouth and sat back down to work. He measured and cut the washi paper to fit the dimensions of the bamboo sticks, then opened the bottle of glue. An hour later, Father came downstairs. "Son, it's time for bed." "Look, Father, it's finally finished, I think." Hiroshi held a miniature, six-sided rokaku kite, complete with string. "Hiro-chan, did you make that yourself?" "The glue still has to dry, but it'll be ready by tomorrow." Father leaned in to inspect the kite. "It's exquisite, son." "I didn't have time to paint it, but the kimono and other things will be white, so I thought this could be white too." "He would be so proud of you." Father sat on the stool next to Hiroshi. He was already so proud of you. Do you ever wish you had become a kite maker like grandfather? Father smiled a faraway smile. When I was a boy, I used to think I would. I loved flying kites as much as you do, but I was nowhere near as good as you are. Grandfather knew it too, although he was always patient with me. My younger brother was even worse than I was, if you can believe that. First uncle had grandfather's talent, but once he fell in love with Aunt Kathy, he left kites and Japan behind him. Was grandfather sad that no one wanted to help him in his workshop? He may have been, but he never showed it. When I finally admitted to him that I had no future in kites, he reminded me that one does not need to be a champion to fly a kite for pleasure. He encouraged us to become whatever he wanted, but to always leave room for fun. Hiroshi held the tiny kite up to the light. He's got to have a kite in his next life, you know, and maybe this will help him to remember me. He gently set the kite on the table. Father rested his hand on Hiroshi's shoulder. Hito-chan, grandfather won't need a kite to remember you. Hiroshi hoped father was right. When they got to the top of the stairs, Hiroshi took one more look at the tiny kite alone on the work table. You can go ahead, father. I'll be right there. Hiroshi went back down the steps, picked up the cloud-white kite, and carried it back upstairs. When he got to his room, he set it next to the photo of himself with grandfather. When Hiroshi finally fell asleep, the white kite drifted in and out of his dreams. We'll pause there, and that's the end of part 1 of Read Aloud.